Did you know that 100 out of 100 people are suffering with subscriber phobia? So if you hit the subscribe button, you're cured! Hello Gadies and Lantermen, Savage Tea Drinker here, and last episode we embarked on an unknown journey where we let my community decide what class we play in this new Zero to Hero series. We had some pretty dodgy LFR shenanigans, and they were proper dodgy. We learned a thing or two about the new patch and the bugs from it by the comments, thank you. We had some fun in our first few dungeons where we had a drug abusing warlock and a mage who took skipping the dragon to a whole new level. Unfortunately, we didn't get blessed with RNG in our dungeons for loot, but let's see how we get on in this episode. This is where we left off last week, about 439 item level and around 300 Rio score. Some extremely sad news, my computer had decided that his minimum wage of an occasional desk slam and crumbs from food was not enough for him to keep working. So at some points this week in LFR and dungeons, Nvidia Shadowplay decided to lie straight to my face and pretend he was working, but instead he was taking a shit in the bathroom. So I'm missing a few bosses here and there from LFR and dungeons, and you missed out on a full Fiesta spicy key. Public service announcement, do not be this guy. He was super geared and he was just complaining at people, so I obviously had to take a shot at him because I cannot help myself when I see an asshole. He then doubles down on his stupidity, and the first pull he wasn't even on the meters. Somehow we were though. Just don't expect people seeing the raid for the first time potentially to know every boss fight in class they're playing. Right, that's my rant over. Nothing really eventful happened like last raid, looking at you Tendril. Although we did have a scare on Nemu where there was around 3 people left to kill the boss, and the next phase was fast approaching. I definitely felt a bit better this week going into LFR now that I've played the spec a bit more than last time. We've somehow managed to snack our way onto the meters a couple of times as well on the bosses, I'm not really sure how. Possibly Windwalker's broken, possibly I've actually learned something, who knows, but either way, I'm pretty happy about it. So far we've not actually had any luck with the LFR overlords for loot, and this will most likely probably be my last journey into the madness that is LFR.
Nice.
I might end up trying to make like a normal group potentially, or maybe join one if I can get invited, but if not I'll probably just get most of my gear through Mythic Plus and Crests. Nice little 3 set to polish off LFR this week. Now we just need to grab ourselves 4 set and then we can bring our Fist of Fury into some dungeons. Monk pun. So with 3 raid slots from the previous week of LFR and then 2 vault slots from dungeons, we had these juicy 5 pieces. So as you can see straight away, Signet brand, very desired item right there. But because we only have 421 off pieces for tier, those 2 tier slots look very juicy, and I think it would be a net gain over the Signet brand. But I wasn't quite sure really, so as you can see I typed out SimC and it's up to the overlords. So after sacrificing a small gnome to the Sim overlords, we got our answer. It was telling us to go for gloves or the shoulders because 2 set would be huge for us. So we ended up actually going for the shoulders because you can potentially get gloves from the world boss. So now we've got 2 set. I'm gonna have to start playing around the blackout reinforcement procs, and it's something to do with spinning crane kicks, and I like GG procs, so win-win there. So we rolled on over to the world boss, hopefully getting these gloves we need, and then we can potentially get 4 set. And we did it! Somehow I actually got loot for once. I had that whole rant about it last episode, and we actually got it. So before we lock into our 4 set, we actually did a couple of dungeons pre-4 set. So we're going to go back in time, and we started off with our own key, Amazon's Rise 5, where the tank wasn't actually ready at the start, so I nearly died to aggro, good start. Warrior jumping in did not give a crap about the tank and aggro. Our tank wasn't appreciative of this, as you can see, but at least the warrior was nice enough to apologize. This fight lasted longer than my dungeon runs for pushing Mythic Plus score on my Shaman. Right, coming up here is just me showcasing to you what not to do in the gauntlet. I'm just testing to see if you can be hit. We easily blasted through Hellscream, and we definitely didn't touch a death pad. And then we attempted to skip. I put my Ring of Peace down, and the tank was just like, I don't give a crap, I'm going to run straight through the middle, pull aggro, and obviously, we dipped.
Bye, have a great time.
So then we waited after my pro skip at Morchi. But if you take a look at the timer now, watch when we actually get to pull the boss. There's like nearly 5 minutes of him just dying. So we easily blasted through the rest of it. Unfortunately, we didn't get a +3 because we had a little mishap with the skip. We got a nice weapon transmog, but we didn't actually need it. And someone got the mount. And look what mount they got. It took me ages farming that. We ended up trading the warrior the weapon because he actually wanted it. He was really thankful. So for our last mere mortal key, before we acquire the God 4 set and start skyrocketing on the meters. Surely. Maybe? I know Vaseline started the key and the druid was a little bit confused as there's no timer. And then we attempted, and I say attempted, to try keep up with the hunter, but unfortunately I think they were helping out their paladin friend, which is good for them, but we got absolutely diffed in damage. And it's a similar story with the boss. As you can see, the paladin, he's running along there. That's essentially how we felt in the dungeon. We're just mindlessly running around while the hunter did everything for us. Don't let these fat little goblins drink their happy juice because they get a little bit crazy and kill you. And then we may have free blasted and got punished for it, but you know, surely not our fault, right? And then you're seeing my insane reaction times, getting that cast off straight away, definitely not at the end. I mentioned at the start of the episode that Nvidia had lied to our face and pretended to record gameplay, so there is a pretty big gap with Rio and footage. I do apologise, but I'm going to give a quick recap of the dungeons. Funnily enough, I had quite a bit of trouble getting into some keys, which was quite surprising to me. I was applying to kind of 5 or 10 key level, but because I hadn't done any meme lower keys or even some of them on Tyrannical, I was either getting declined or ignored, and I'm not really sure which is worse. So I spent a good few hours just kind of trying to join what I can, a couple of 10s here and there, and if possible I always tried to continue with the group I'd just done the key with, if they were doing another key. One thing I almost forgot is I did pick up the head enchant from the raid, so if you are returning to the game or you're making a new character, make sure you do grab the quest after you get into LFR, and then roughly around 2 runs of LFR, you'll get the 50 echo currency from the bosses you've killed, and then you can hand that in and then you get yourself a nice little DPS boost, and you can always enchant new headpieces because it is infinite uses. Coming to the tail end of our mere mortal key, our last one, we easily did a +3 gamer group. Appreciate the hunter coming in here and carrying us both on the back of his 2 pets. Didn't get any loot unfortunately, but that may change. Following the blue ball earlier with the 4 set, we did polish off our morsel keys and now we're making our way to get the God set. Reading through the 2 and 4 set for Monk, it does seem very synergistic with one another, and it does pique my interest. Coming from Shaman and with how our tier set works with reducing cooldowns as well, it does kind of feel fairly at home to me. I like things which reduce kind of your base cooldowns. It kind of changes the way you play. If you are a Monk player, do you prefer this current tier set or do you like previous raid tier sets? With this key, I'm hoping to get a +3 on it, so we grab ourselves a 13 key, so then we can get better juicy vault rewards. I was trying my hardest to play the rotation as best as I knew. We fully popped off in this first pack and there was definitely no touch of death cheesing going on, of course. Having the cheesy proc activators more often due to our new 4 set, like Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick, did feel quite nice throughout this dungeon. Although sometimes when I'm reading through the prior list on Wowhead, I felt like I was potentially doing something wrong, because on big packs, I always kind of found myself not doing as much as I feel like I could have. But then that could just be me and my perfectionist mindset, but I'm sure I'll figure it out as the dungeons go on. If you've ever watched Dragon Ball Z with Goku and his instant teleport tech, unsure on the actual name of it, that's how I feel when I use this myself, because I don't actually have to walk back to things. Feels good. I'm enjoying being on top of the meters. It's nice in these low keys because everyone's kind of on a similar playing field, And I'm just enjoying it now, because when we get to higher keys, it's not going to be the case. So just let me enjoy it. We didn't lose the first boss, even that's why I grabbed the mage, but thankfully he sent it on the second boss after me asking. Just watch this part, okay? I do not know what it is about this dungeon and mages and that dragon skip. It's every time. I mean literally every time. I'd be surprised if next episode we don't do another fall and it doesn't happen again with a mage. Honestly, I'd probably think of it as bad luck at this point. It just makes me laugh every single time how people still manage to fall off. First dungeon with 4 set felt pretty nice. I think we did pretty respectable damage there. I think it was 166k. I think that's the highest we've gotten so far. Unfortunately, no loot. Another bloody splintered dreams. We don't want any more. We have like 5 in our bags. But the DH got a trinket, and I know haste isn't great for us, but we wanted it anyway. He went to trade it, and feels bad. Just before we sent that fall into the Shadow Realm, we upgraded a few pieces of our gear. We were stocking up a little bit on the Flightstone, so it's better to just send them rather than forgetting and then hitting the cap like I do on my Shaman a lot of the time. Damage is damage, item level is item level, as they say, so that's what we did. So this was our last key before the Great Depression, sadly, where the video markets crashed and all stocks in Raider.io had dropped in 2024. I've noticed a couple of times in my previous dungeons, and someone also mentioned this in the Discord recently, when you press spinning crane kick whilst you're in your Serenity window, you instantly proc your 2 set, so you can quite literally spin to win. So in this pool, I just decided to full send that Rotato, and I just span away, and it did pretty good damage. So you heard it here first, or maybe you've heard it before, but get 2 set, play Serenity, and you can literally make the monk meme a real breathing thing. Speaking of breathing things, Lady Najata isn't doing that anymore. You like what I did there? Was that good? Maybe? And this guy always reminds me of Zakul from BFA in Eternal Palace. Not sure why. Probably the tentacles and the little crab hands. Right, this is the most important part of the dungeon, and we're going to play a little mini game. So the game is how many people are going to be hit. So let me know in the comments before you watch, and pause the video now. There you have it. Is it 2, 3, 2.5 because of the mage? You tell me. I personally think it's 2. Quite a few pulls throughout this dungeon. I was definitely feeling the 4 set and getting used to the AoE a bit more and how it's meant to be played. We peaked 300k quite a few times as well. Feels good, man. Coming to the end of the Facehugger boss, it always reminds me of the films from Alien, hence the name Facehugger. If you haven't seen them, I'm going to throw a reference in the top, the slimy little creatures they are. Regarding the gauntlet, Throne of the Tides is pretty rough in this because people just pad their asshole off. So being monk, having a disease dispel to kind of combat the little guy's corruptions stacking up is very handy, and would recommend. It's very much better than what I have to deal with on my Shaman. So you know how we said there was a Fiesta key which we didn't record? Here's a brief, painful overview of how it went. So normally in dungeons you do standard routes like this. Well, our tanker was better geared and maybe had an in real life emergency where his balls broke through the floor because they're so huge because of the pulls he was doing, did a route like this. So go figure how it went. We got a potential catalyst piece on the adventure track, which is very nice, and we also did 175k overall, which is our highest yet. And then before we start our last key, we got some drums because we had no lust. This is our highest key level yet, and I'm a little bit scared. As the key levels are going up, I can definitely feel the lack of HP with our item level only being 449. Because normally you can kind of do a bit of damage, but living mechanics is starting to kind of creep in a bit now, which is kind of what I was worried about going up in key level. This Ravager mob was just Legolasing people down all over the show. Our healer instantly got taken out. There's a few times where I had to heal myself and I barely survived. Yeah, it was a really rough mob. Always a nice feeling when you go into a pack and within about 10 seconds the entire thing has been obliterated. This party came in with mean intentions. So the weekly affixes which we've been dealing with throughout the week, it's Fortified starting off, which means next week it's going to be Tyrannical, and then they'll just keep rotating each week like that. This increases mobs' HP and damage. Next, which is what we've mostly been dealing with as a second affix because of low keys, is Incorporeal, and it's a hell of a lot easier on Monk than it is on a Shaman, because on Shaman you have to use Hex and that's a cast time, whereas Monk you can stop it with Paralysis and they're going to periodically try to reduce your damage if the cast gets off. Lastly is El Sanguine, which is a much nerfed version than what it used to be back in its heyday. It periodically heals mobs when they're stood on top of it, but on Monk we also have a really easy way of dealing with it with our Ring Jutsu, Ring of Peace, so thankfully we have the cure. Nothing crazy really happened throughout the rest of the dungeon. We had a bit of a spicy gauntlet which I'll briefly show, and also Lady Nazjatar when she has her shield in the intermission. It can be very deceiving and hard to spot the swirlies because it's just blue on blue on blue, but my bad. We had our Mr. Warrior here, Chance going for the goop as the AoE is about to go off, and then he gets yeeted out of existence. Goodbye, friend. As we went from an 11 to a 16, this flame shot cast from the boss, which goes out every now and then, hits like a mother effing truck. There's a few times where I dropped really low. I think the Paladin was slightly slow under the spells, but my god, I was clenching my asshole. This is how our gauntlet went. Few more deaths I didn't show, but the Paladin's gonna sum up the experience. Even though the gauntlet was crap, we easily bested the last boss. It was a nice little +2 on the key, and we got ourselves a nice little axe. So if we ever get another one, it'll be an item level upgrade. And the DK got the porcelain crab, but unfortunately he did need it. Feels bad, man. Little overview of the week. We got a 1327 score. We got all keys done on Fortified, and we got 6 juicy slots for the vault to open today, and I still haven't opened it, but I'm going to now. Just kidding. Here is our Monk G at the end of the week. Nice extra 10 eye levels from last week. Once we get a new trinket or pants, we're going to shoot up an eye level as well. Maybe we'll get it in the vault, who knows? We shall find out next episode. Thank you very much for watching and have a wonderful day. If you don't want to deplete keys, like and subscribe. Special thanks to the Patreon supporters. You're the best.